No, I think that's a great question. I think that, the diagnosis of ADHD has been, in general, more likely underdiagnosed than overdiagnosed. And I think what we're finding as we start to kind of increase the awareness and understanding about this disorder, I think we're starting to see more and more people who are open to considering the diagnosis, are aware of it, and then are often seeking care or treatment for that. Now, the data is a bit complex. I mean, there are a number of surveys that look at maybe a 5% or so increase in the rate of diagnosis for African Americans, and a little bit less than that for um, Latino populations. It's hard to know how accurate that is. I think that there's also data in recent years that really show a level of underdiagnosis for the Latino, Black, and non-white populations. And so I think that we probably, on a prevalence basis, have um, more white individuals or that actually are being diagnosed and have ADHD. But the question really gets to the percentage of the population. And I think we're starting to see a higher percentage in the minority populations. But the answer as to why is one that's a bit complex. There are a number of things I think that go along with that. One would be that we have to remember that ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. And so what I mean by that is it's a diagnosis that's made in relation to the neurological development of a child, adolescent, adult. And so that neurological development and physical development are impacted by things that occur in the environment. There's certainly a genetic component and other pieces to this. But if you look at the issues related to adverse childhood experiences and the higher rate of those experiences in minority communities, if you take sociodemographics and the environmental impact of living in more impoverished areas, which is much more likely in minority populations. All of those things will impact the neurological, emotional development of an individual. And so there's a lot of evidence to support that adverse experiences growing up has a big part of it. There are things that are more concrete in the environment, such as, it's been a few years now, but issues with lead, right? The level of, excuse me, the level of lead in a community, when lead was used in paints, it would chip off, get into the ground and then in the water. And so lead is toxic to the brain. And so we get a set of behaviors that can come out of that include symptoms of ADHD. And that's a more concrete example, but the other influences are really much more broad than that. And so the best evidence I've seen suggests that some of the biggest impacts are, as a minority individual, your likelihood of living in an environment physically and emotionally that can be more traumatic is a big part of that. And I think as we delve into and investigate more, we'll understand kind of more broadly some of the other factors, but that seems to be chief among them.